Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, September. It's September 28th. It's February 28th today. And this is the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Two of our commissioners, Clapper and Jacober, are actually traveling today to Washington, D.C. to do some work on our behalf. So Steve Child and I are here in the room, and Kelly McNicholas Curry is joining us online from her home today. So she's remote, and so we're going to get this meeting off and rolling. Any additions or deletions? Rich?
I do not have any.
But Rye has. We're not deleting, we just have to continue.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask you to continue
Okay.
item number 3 again.
All right. So we're going to keep moving. I'm going to open this up to public comment, and I think we have one in the room. Come on up.
The red light is on, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. My name's Ellen Anderson, Aspen Village, and I'm speaking for myself as a private citizen. And I'm kind of directing it from my heart to you, Steve, because it upsets me that your dad's legacy is being smeared in the newspaper. And you may have seen some letters by Barry Vaughn trying to rewrite history about the airport curfew. And he has written several letters, and it's been said also in public meetings that Pitkin County lost. We did not lose. Your dad was chair of the BoCC, and he was a hero. He kept us from having all-night flights, and it disturbs me a lot, freedom of speech and all that. But the reason I'm bringing it to the BoCC's attention is that this person, Barry Vaughn, is in a position of power. He's on the Airport Advisory Board, and now he's a regular voting member. And it distresses me that he's rewriting history. And we all adored your dad. He was a hero. And personally, I'm upset about his legacy being changed and smeared. And that, and I know you only have 3 minutes. There also have been at least one in particular, letters to the editor, one in particular by Dennis O'Meara, being very anti-airport expansion, which is fine. Reasonable people can disappear. But I've done a little research, and there is nobody registered to vote in Pitkin County by the name of Dennis O'Meara. And he signed his letter, Dennis O'Meara, Snowmass Village. And the sort of corollary to that is people on public boards here, especially the safety ops, 7 out of the 12 people are not registered to vote in Pitkin County. And I see that as an indication that they're not really attached to this community. They're all very bright, accomplished people. But my suggestion is maybe in a work session or something, the conversation should be who should be in a position of power. These people absolutely, I believe, would be very important consultants to a citizen committee, a local citizens committee. But the way I see it, speaking for myself, I don't think they should be voting members. I think locals should be voting members. So thanks for listening, and I hope you put it on an agenda item for a work session. Just the whole thing. What are the qualifications for being on what should be a local public service board? And I think showing that you're devoted to the community enough to be registered to vote here is one criterion that should be considered. But when the majority are not registered to vote here, that something doesn't seem right to me. So thanks for listening, and I hope you put that on the agenda. And I hope your dad's I hope your dad's reputation can be cleared up. Thank you.
Ellen, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
You're talking about the safety board?
Well, there's the Airport Advisory Board, and they, a certain number of them can be not Pitkin County voters. But I believe that rule was made so that Valerie Braun, who lived here for 40 years, and Meg Haynes, who lived here for 40 years, could be included. But the upshot was we have a person on here on the Airport Advisory Board who has never lived here, only moved here shortly before the visioning process, is a very vocal, and represents himself as an Aspen pilot. He doesn't live in Aspen, doesn't live in Pitkin County, he's not a
Okay,
pilot.
thank you.
So,
Did you say that a majority of the AAB doesn't,
no,
are
no,
not registered to
not
vote?
the AAB, the Safety Task Force. And as you know, the Safety Task Force was not publicly announced. It wasn't, nobody interviewed them except for one person, Barry Vaughn. The Airport Advisory Board just said, okay, and then the BoCC said, okay. And I don't think you guys realized that, guys and gals, realized that the people you were approving for the Safety Task Force, the majority of them don't vote in Pitkin County.
Right, thank you, Ellen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that comment. We don't have any other public comment from, looks like anybody online. I don't think we do, but you could raise. So we're going to go to commissioner comments. Kelly is with us, and Steve is here. I'll start with Steve, is that okay, Kelly?
I didn't raise her hand.
Yeah, I was just,
Okay, I wish I had a
nice to see you.
better picture, but I do have I have my score here for the Aspen Choral Society Spring Concert. The drop that contained the sea. This will blow people's minds when they hear this piece of work. There'll be 3 performances. We want to have all of them 100% full. The first will be in Basalt Middle School on March 15th, Friday, March 15th, 7 p.m. All the starting times are 7 p.m. March 16th at Harris Concert Hall. So this will be a special occasion for us to sing in Harris Concert Hall, maybe only the 3rd time ever that I can remember singing there. And the 3rd night on March 17th at Glenwood High School. This performance is all about water. Each of the songs has a theme of water, and they are all in a different language. There are 10 different languages sung in this performance, none of which I have spoken before in my life. Things like Turkish and Mongolian and Portuguese and a couple of African languages and so on and so on. It's incredibly interesting. Old Norse is also one of the languages. Sanskrit, Swahili, different languages like that. So I urge everybody to try to attend one of them. You can get tickets now online at aspenchoralsociety.org for $20. They're going to be $25 at the door, so it's good to get your ticket ahead of time to save some money. So I urge everybody to come and hear. This is going to be an amazing performance, different, and I think the most amazing one that we have ever done. So,
Wow.
thank you.
Exciting. Fantastic. Kelly, do you have anything you'd like to say this morning, this afternoon? Glad you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not feeling great. I have strep throat, so I'm going to try and preserve my voice a little bit, but I'm looking forward to World Cup this weekend, and all the best to all the volunteers and athletes as they compete.
Thank you. I wanted to say a couple of things. One, just driving into town this morning, when I was coming in to the bus, the traffic was backed up somewhere far beyond the Woody Creek turnoff. Smith Hill Road turnoff was backed up farther than I could see. And it was, I looked at my map and it was just a big red line all the way out past Shale Bluffs. This seems to be more and more of a frequent event. It's happening in the afternoons, it's happening in the mornings, and even in midday. We're seeing so much traffic. As I've said before, we're a community now of about 135,000. We're not a community of 18,000, like we always like to say, or 7,000 at the town of Aspen. And I've always wondered, what is the volume of traffic and commuters that we need to start thinking about another way of transit to get people to the Upper Valley. So I would welcome that conversation again, whether it's a light rail solution or a dedicated bus lane or a gondola or jetpacks, autonomous air taxis. I'm all for it. But this is a problem we can't ignore any longer by pretending we're a tiny little town up in the mountains. The other thing I want to say, which is great news, one, the skiing is spectacular. I think our snowpack is up probably about average now. And I managed to get out for an hour this morning, and I skied untracked powder lines. Even at 10 a.m., I was skiing untracked powder on Aspen Mountain, and that was so nice. It was such a great day, and I met these people who were so happy to be here. And so even though we deal with a lot of the problems in the community and with housing and transit and airports and all the things that really are heavy and difficult, complex decisions, we have a community of really ardent, happy skiers. They can get out and ski powder and snow. It's so nice to get out and be among them. And I met a woman who had just gotten married on Thursday. Her middle name was Aspen because her parents married in Aspen, had met here. And she was just so happy to be in town for the weekend. You know, it was like coming home somehow for her. So anyway, it's been so much fun to run into happy skiers. And then finally, I want to recognize a local student in the high school, graduating senior Mino Khan Faruqi, the daughter of the two doctors Faruqi in town, has such high SAT and scores and so many other efforts and things that she's accomplished in the community that she's been recognized nationally as a merit scholar, and she's been kind of inducted into this. I think it's a group of 15,000 max right now people nationwide who have this qualification, and then they're going to. My guess is she's going to keep going, but she is a brilliant, talented, fantastic local kid coming out of our school who's just got incredible scholastic potential. And so I just want to congratulate her and her family and make sure everyone knows that we're producing really great kids here. Thank you. That's it for my comments.
Can I
Kelly, oh
reply
yeah,
to your
sure. I see your hand.
Yeah. No, thanks. I just, I drive every day to take my 7-year-old to first grade at Basalt Elementary. So I observe a lot of the traffic patterns, and I've never seen today on any other day. But then I'd be curious. I think it would be interesting to ask him for information from Ski Company about how many local pass users skied today. Because I also marveled at how quickly the alerts went out that both Highlands and Snowmass parking were full pretty quickly this morning. And I've just never seen the Snowmass turn off, so backed up, which I think was causing all that traffic down past Woody Creek and almost into the canyon. It would be interesting to look at that because perhaps there's a lot more work we can be doing to get our own locals to using the buses to the ski areas better, or figuring out if that's happening well enough or not.
Right. Thank you. Great suggestion. Yeah, to know how much skier traffic there is a great idea. Steve?
One other item, you'll have to fill me in on the details, but there is going to be an art opening at the Aspen Chapel Gallery coming up real soon, and
right.
two of the featured artists, or several of the featured artists, are from Greg and part members of his family.
Four of us are in that show.
So could
Yeah.
you give us some details
I will.
on when the opening is? I think that'll be an awesome opening.
Thank you. Thank you for asking, Steve. I didn't plant that question. March 6th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Aspen Chapel. There's an opening with several local families. It's a generational show tied with the Aspen Historical Society and the chapel working together. And they've got to be 8 or 9 families that have multiple people. And mine happens to have 4 members who are contributing something. And I'm doing abstracts, snow abstracts, And I realized that people are going to walk by my photographs and they're going to say, why? And I think, okay, that's fine. Or, huh? Like, why would you take a picture of that? And so anyway, I really enjoy shooting them, and I'm going to show four or five at that. That we're supposed to have a theme within the family, and the only thing I could come up with was spontaneity and whimsy, because my mother's work and my sister's work and my work and my daughter Willow's work are all so disparate that we're gonna have to leave it up for people to figure out what the connection is, because I haven't figured it out other than spontaneity. We all kind of just do stuff. So enough about that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, one of the best photographs I ever took was of a rock in the Roaring Fork River at Jaffe Park.
See?
And it's just an abstract thing that it's very artistic. And
Right.
You could hang it in a gallery.
If you notice things like that, it just makes life so much happier if you just notice those little things. So yeah, good job. Okay, we're going to move on here. Thank you for all the public announcements. Did you get all that, Josie? Do we need to repeat any of this for you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll lend a photo to that. Let's see. Consent items. Single reading. Minutes of February 14, 2024 is up first. I guess I'd ask for changes, motions to approve.
I'll move to approve the minutes of February 14th.
I'll second it. Beat you to it,
I
Kelly.
can second.
Okay, I didn't see any, I have no problems with it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, we have a resolution appointing citizen board members, and there's been a request to break it down into, I think we have 3 up. Charlotte's going to come up. I think Steve has asked that we open that up and discuss each one.
Or just discuss the whole thing.
Okay, I'll let you take it from there, Steve.
So the three people we want to apply are Michael Solons to the Airport Advisory Board, who has been an alternate member and filling a vacancy on the regular board. Sam Cox to the Election Commission, and Taylor Logston as for the Redstone Historic Preservation Committee.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Now, I've been asked if I would allow public comment today, and I'm going to. I have one commenter in the community who would like to say something, so I'm going to invite her up now.
Ellen Anderson, speaking as a private citizen. I like Mike a lot. In fact, it turns out our hometowns are about 5 miles apart. My piano teacher lived where he grew up, so he's a very affable guy and certainly knowledgeable. However, I have asked the clerk and recorder, and he is not registered to vote in Pickens County, for whatever that amounts to, which means there now are 4, I guess, on the Airport Advisory Board. Valerie Braun, who lived here for 40 years now, lives in Garfield County. Meg Haynes now, I think, lives down in Garfield County. And Barry Vaughn has never lived here, lives in Eagle County. So if Mike, they don't live here, but I haven't looked at the whole advisory board about where they vote, but there are at least 4 who don't vote in Pickens County. And as I mentioned before, I have a little problem with that. I would, and as I said before, people who are, I think, in a position of power are held to, I think, a higher standard of being local and knowing the community, being invested in the community, and so forth. And we have so much talent here, and I think some of these people who are on boards would be more appropriately as consultants, and they could speak to the boards. But I would like to see more real hometown local people who, live under the flight path and have, put their heart and soul and wallet into the community. And I'm not trying to disparage qualifications at all. I'm just trying to say I think some of these people, including Mike, might be a better consultant rather than a voting member, especially on the Safety Task Force, which is under the Airport Advisory Board, not to be confused with the advisory board. But that's just my view as a citizen who has lived here a long time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thanks, Ellen. If I could respond to that, I believe the bylaws would say that people have to be a resident of of Pickens County or of the Roaring Fork Valley in some instances. And I can't recall any of our boards that say they need to be a registered voter, but most of them do say they need to be a resident. Could you,
Yeah, I
is
can.
that correct?
It just depends on what boards we're talking about. So, for example, our Planning and Zoning Commission, the bylaws for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and keep in mind that all the bylaws are adopted by the BoCC at some point. But the current bylaws for the Planning and Zoning Commission specify that the members must be residents of Pickens County. There's a number of ways to demonstrate residency. One of them is if you're registered to vote here, and that's good evidence that you may be. Some of our other boards, like the Healthy Rivers and Streams program, recently changed from a residency requirement, to a more valley-wide, I think, watershed definition of where you can reside. And the impetus behind that, as I understand it, was hard to find enough volunteers to serve on that board. So each of our various bylaws for our various citizens boards are somewhat specific with respect to where folks are allowed to reside and still participate on the board. I don't have a copy of the Airport Advisory Board bylaws in front of me, but I believe Ms. Anderson is correct. There was a recognition at some point that it was desirable to have some folks that were not just Pickens County residents on that particular board, where, you know, there are some longtime residents that no longer reside in Pickens County but still live in the valley that have some valuable input. So that's a policy decision that this board makes when they review bylaws for various citizens boards, and you all can direct staff to bring those back to you to modify those whenever you find it appropriate.
And Steve, if I might, I can talk to the advisory board for the
great.
airport. It is set up. The bylaws were set up before anybody was ever selected, so it wasn't set up around people. It's around their locations. And it was the BoCC's pleasure to make sure that we were having representative kind of representation throughout the valley, since the airport is a regional aspect. So I think that's why you had set it up that way, that the majority at least be Pickens County. That's why whenever Michael, or actually Valerie Braun, moved out, your alternate you're filling has to come from Pickens County. So that's why that was specified in our advertisement. Just to keep that majority Pickens County residents, but it doesn't state anything about voter registration within those.
Okay.
Great, thanks for the clarification, Rich. Any other comment, discussion on this? If not, I'd take a motion.
So I'm gonna abstain from this vote because I was too ill yesterday to participate in the presentation of the Redstone Historic Society, the interview with Taylor. And I have a little concern about Sam, not that I don't think he would be good, but I just think his interview indicated that the board might weigh more heavily democratically leaning in a board that I think should try to be really politically neutral. So I'm gonna abstain.
Right, if Kelly abstains, that means two of us are voting. And is that okay to have two, one nothing and two yes, or
Well,
unless Steve and I are split?
if you split your vote right now, then there's no action that the board can take.
Right,
Because Kelly is abstaining and we're in a circumstance of necessity.
but
There are
she's
no other-
present.
She's present,
So she would be voting, but her vote is to abstain.
right. So if you
there would
both,
be three voting.
if you both vote in favor of it, the motion will pass. If you don't, then
We're back to square
you
one.
will have to wait till your next meeting to consider the resolution.
Got it, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of the three members to the citizen board committees.
and I will second that motion, and I'm gonna call the question. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Okay, it
Thank
passes 2-0.
with Kelly
Thank you.
and one abstention needs to
Two
be
a-
in the
two
record.
with one
Three people
abstention.
voted.
Yeah, 3 people voted, and it passed. Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you,
Suzanne's
Ellen,
here.
for bringing that up. I'll keep that in mind going forward. It's one more thing we hadn't thought about it from voter registration, but Yeah, something else for us to think about to our long list.
Okay, I'm going to individual consideration items, one reading resolution. This is the resolution of the Board of Commissioners approving a settlement agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Rock Creek Association. Rye is here, and I understand you want to continue this again.
I do.
Please tell us what's up.
Ryan Neely, Assistant County Attorney. As you said, this is scheduled for a reading of a resolution to approve a settlement agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and the Rock Creek Association. We have not been able to finalize a final settlement document and its attendant attachments with the Rock Creek Association. And there's a couple holdups that would best be discussed in an executive session if necessary, but in any event, it's not ready to go today. And I would ask that you move it to the next meeting, which I believe is March 13th.
March 13th.
If we can put it on the agenda for that day, that would be great. And I should be resolved by then or not. So,
Got it. March 13th.
but I'll check in with you all again on it.
March 13th will be a busy day, but it sounds like if you've got it ironed out by then, that'll be a fairly quick item.
It would be if we have it ready to go by then. So yeah, I'd just ask if the board would make a motion to continue it, and we'll go from there.
I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
what is the status of our agreement, and what's the status of the road and access to that road now?
It's closed at the moment.
So we wouldn't go in and open it in the meantime until this is resolved?
Not while we're trying to resolve this through a settlement agreement. If we're not able to resolve it with the settlement agreement, then we would ask the court to open it
Got
as
it.
soon as
Okay,
possible.
So that's where we are.
That's the
So
fallback position.
You're still
for
trying?
sure. Yep.
Okay. Meanwhile, the people of Redstone who don't get to use that road are inconvenienced, and this has really gone on so long. It's frustrating, I'm sure, for you too.
Quite a long time, since 2019.
Yeah. I'm not feeling really charitable right now.
I hear
you. Any comments from a board?
Well,
To continue to March 13th.
and I'll second that motion. And I really hope we resolve this soon. Before the end of my term, I hope this is done. So the people of Redstone will have at least a good portion of that road open for them to go for their evening walks and whatnot.
Yep. I'd like to see that too.
Any other comment, or is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of continuing this to March 13th?
Aye.
Say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rye. Okay, we're moving on to individual consideration items. First reading set for public hearing March 13th. Adding to that list. First up is ordinance accepting development covenants executed by the Community Development Director for January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2023 in connection with land use development approvals pursuant to ordinance number 32-2017. And Suzanne is here.
Thanks, Craig. Since you read all of that, I'm not sure there's a whole lot I need to say. I come once a year to you to accept all of the covenants that have been signed off and recorded in the prior year. That list of covenants was included in the packet as attached to the ordinance. As you can see, I think there are 25 of them from last year, and some of those are the covenant that's recorded when somebody gets a TDR, growth management allotment. If you get an allotment, you record a covenant. Agricultural buildings have a covenant ensuring it will be used agriculturally. Occupancy generally is a caretaker dwelling unit. Anything else? Housing impact fee, that's if somebody has come through and put a covenant on the property as a local occupant, local resident. Let's see if there's any other types that I've missed.
The
There's
TDRs.
TDRs, and there's one on there that's a no further subdivision or a prohibition on further subdivision, which stemmed back to an older subdivision approval.
So they're pulling
So-
TDRs for these. These are TDRs that are being
These are
pulled off the
right, when a
properties.
TDR is issued and then the covenant prohibits, further use of the property.
Got it. And these are the ones that are done administratively, so we don't see them until now.
Correct,
And they're
correct.
handled by your office.
There's certain documents that come through you all for signature by the chair based on development approvals, but there are quite a few. Some of these things just are a building permit process. You know, if you're building a barn, you've gotten to that point, you record the covenant. So it's not something that's going through a review process. It's just a requirement of the code. But this was intended to streamline this, because before we would have brought every single one of these to you for a 2-reading acceptance. So this has made it a lot simpler for staff as well as the board.
Great, thank you.
I'd
Any
also
other-
add a number of them are a result of something like a special review approval or something that the BoCC does review, but the trigger to record the applicable covenant is not until the time of building permit. And oftentimes that can be many months, if not a couple years after the time the approval is granted by this board. So oftentimes the covenant is contemplated, but actually executing it and getting it recorded doesn't take place for some time. So that's how some of these come about.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments? I'd accept a motion if not.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance accepting the development covenants executed by the Community Development Director during the year 2023.
Well, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Oh, and set for
Thank you,
second
Suzanne.
reading, March 13th.
Thank you,
That's
Kelly.
true.
We'll see you
Yep.
again on March 13th. Okay, passes first reading. Now we're moving on to the resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the BoCC and Town of Basalt, Colorado to support the Stotts Mill Child Care Facility. Ashley's here.
Hi, good afternoon. Ashley Pearl, Resiliency and Housing Director. I spoke with the board yesterday in a work session about this IGA. It's an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Basalt for us to transfer $250,000 of, part of it is Picken County General Fund money, and part of it is Picken County's ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funds, in exchange, well, to support the construction of a new child care facility located in Picken County. Town of Basalt will be overseeing the construction, so the money goes directly to them. And then in exchange, we're supporting the build out of 54 new childcare spaces in the community, as well as the receipt of 11 priority spots for employees that work for our organization, for the children of those employees.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Now, for
so-
Kelly's benefit, the other thing that came before us yesterday that I think we approved to move forward, and so we understand what the ask will be. Kelly, I don't know if you monitored this at all, but the project is over budget, no surprise there, and they may come back and ask us for an additional sum of funds. We don't know how many, what would be expected of us, or maybe you do by now. And we said we'd consider it, but we didn't want to commit yet. But maybe if you could
Happy to
elaborate on
summarize.
that for Kelly's benefit.
So, yes, the overall project cost is $275,000 over what Town of Basalt originally estimated. So they'll be looking to community partners, including Picken County, to make that up, as well as to their own council and their own budget. And what the board decided yesterday is that you're not able at this time to make a commitment of the ARPA funds, because we've committed ARPA funds elsewhere. And so I'm going to come back to you with a bigger picture of how many ARPA funds, how we can use them, and the options. Right now, it's either you could give some of them to Town of Basalt to support Stotts Mill, and then give some of them to a regional housing program, or you could give all of them to a regional housing program. But we need some details. So I'll come back to you next month with some details, and then the board can decide. At that time, I'll also have a better sense of what the Town of Basalt is asking and what they've been able to get from other partners.
Great. And I think we wanted to make sure the Town of Basalt knows, we want to encourage them that we're not walking away from it, or that we're interested in hearing more, but we're not ready to make a further commitment yet. I think that was the consensus of the board. I think we agreed on that. And
Can I
that's-
bring up something related
Certainly.
at this time? Okay. I was going to bring this up later, but it might be relevant right now, is that there is legislation moving through that would potentially allow counties to provide tax credits for, uniform types of properties. I've had outreach about this related to potentially seeing childcare facilities, which might, depending on how they are structured, be rated as a commercial property to perhaps get some lowered rate. So I just want to put that out there because it might create some operational savings in the long term, not the construction savings, obviously, but if that's a factor for Blue Lake's participation in the build out, then maybe that's important. I don't know how Blue Lake is structured, if they are considered a commercial entity or not, but I would flag it for thought because we as a board would have to decide if this would be a type of use that we might consider for this program.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm sure Ashley will have more interest in that. You'll follow up on that, I suppose.
Let's follow up. In this particular case, as a reminder for Kelly from yesterday, the town of Basalt is leasing the space from the developer, and then they're subleasing it to Blue Lake. But I don't know the business details of Blue Lake and what sort of taxes they pay.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Thanks for that. With that, any other info or questions? I just accept a motion if.
Yeah.
I did have a question on the IGA. I'm curious as to why the term is only through the end of this year.
The IGA
It seems like the
itself-
project will take longer.
The childcare facility is scheduled to be open by fall of this year. So the IGA goes through the end of this year. The term of our access to priority spots for our employees is for the 5-year sublease term that the town of Basalt has with Blue Lake.
So how do we confirm that if our agreement with them ends the end? How do we confirm the next 4 years?
In the
Like, what's our
yeah.
leverage?
In the IGA, it says that the priority spots for Pickens County will be written into the sublease agreement with Blue Lake.
And the built, Kelly, the structure is already built. The shell of the building is completed. You probably
Sure.
knew that, but they're farther along than I thought they were. So I think it's a matter of build out of the interior, which is doable by fall. We hope. Otherwise, they'll come back to us. Okay, I'm waiting for a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving the IGA between the BoCC and Basalt to support the Stotts Mill Child Care Facility. And this will be, this is the first reading. The second reading will be on March 13th.
Thank you, Steve.
A second.
We have a second from Kelly. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Ashley. This is exciting.
You're welcome. I'm going to stay right here.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so. Up next.
Sorry, I forgot to ask a question. We surveyed our employees. How many of them indicated their need for childcare in the Mid-Valley?
We surveyed our employees on a general need because it was moving pretty quick because we were trying to meet a grant deadline. So we surveyed our employees on their general need for childcare, and we had about 70 employees respond that they did have a need for childcare. We didn't specifically ask if they would enroll in Stotts Mill in this location because we didn't have all the details at the time. So part of this is getting the IGA signed, getting the money as town of Basalt builds out the space. We need to do some internal work on our policy and how we assess the need and how we prioritize that need for employees.
Did we foreshadow at all that perhaps we might want more spots if we contribute more money? Or would our equity position be the same?
That didn't come up in yesterday's board conversation. I think it certainly can when we bring back town of Basalt specific requests for additional funds.
I think someone kind of alluded to that, but we weren't deciding the future contribution. We were just finalizing the current contribution with the 11 slots. And I think the indication was we probably wouldn't use all 11 of those right now, and the others would be put out to other people based on how many children we have right now with the employees.
I think we'll learn a lot about how this is used as a benefit to our employees. And it's great that Blue Lake is able to provide infant care all the way up to pre-K care. Originally, we thought it was only pre-K rooms, which I think would have limited the benefit to our employees. But the fact that Blue Lake can take all ages, I'm hopeful will be a meaningful benefit to the families that work for Picken County.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, we're moving that along. Here's a resolution approving a contract with Noise Management LLC for the management of Phillips Mobile Home Park, and this will be set for public hearing on March 13th.
Great.
Okay, how are we doing? We had some questions about that earlier. How's it going?
It's going great. We've met with Hiram Noise, who is the owner of Noise Management, and this contract is very, very similar to what he's had in place, and we've had in place with him since 2018. So his scope of services remains the same. The amount of the contract, $132,500, remains the same as last year. So that's good for our budget, and Hiram feels like his tasks have stayed the same, his duties have stayed the same. So we are hoping to continue the good management of Phillips that we've been doing. And then the thing that we added this year is with more Picken County staff members stepping in to have closer eyes on Phillips and really understand it. We're going to have more shadowing of Hiram so that we can start to document and really understand some of the very unique systems that are at Phillips, so that we have a transition plan when we start doing developments and different changes, and potentially in the future taking on a different management structure there. So I think we're set up well for the future. We have identified all the things in here that Hiram does and where we'd like to learn a bit more. So I'll start kind of systematically walking through with him every month of this year and checking off a different element of the contract that we want to either document or understand better.
Right, thank you. Thanks for that. Any other questions?
I have a comment. I have a personal connection with the Noise family. Hiram's son, Sean, played third base on the Little League team that I was the coach of years ago. And I tell you, that guy was the best third baseman I have ever seen. And I don't know what, I should ask Hiram sometime what he's doing now. I don't know. He should have gone into professional baseball. He was that good. But I just wanted to give a shout out to the Noise family, and they're a good family.
Okay, thank you for that. Always nice to have some background. All right, I'm looking for a motion. And this would be the
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving the contract between Noise Management LLC and the county for the management of Phillips Mobile Home Park.
This will be for public hearing March 13th. Yep.
I'll second.
You've got a second. Thanks, Kelly. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Now, thank you. Now we're moving on to individual consideration items, public hearing. These are second readings. This is a resolution approving and authorizing the chair to sign a grant agreement with the State of Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the Pitkin County Public Building Electrification Phase 1. And Kara is not here, so Rich is pinch hitting for her.
I am doing that. Thank you. Rich Engelhardt, Deputy County Manager. This is the second reading, asking for your consideration to authorize and sign this grant agreement. This is deals with $3,023,465. It's hard when you see that many numbers in front of you to put those in place, but with the Department of Local Affairs. And this has to do with the topics of electrifying our buildings. And yesterday we had the opportunity to sit down with you, go through that in greater detail. We did advise you that after we do go out with RFP, we don't think we're going to have enough funds to cover this, so we will be coming back once we know a little bit more. But this does take a match, and we've been authorized by you all to match that grant at $1,628,000. So this is approving at least that portion of it. And there's certainly more to come later on, but that's what this is in front of you now.
Great, thank you. So this is accepting, I think it's the largest grant for this purpose that Dole has given out. Is that correct?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it may be the first one that has to do with this conversion in public facilities. That's why we're taking our time, making sure we do it right, because this is going to be a model we think within the state for sure. So yes.
And they were very enthusiastic about it because
Yeah.
we stepped up. So this is us stepping up to do something that will hopefully start happening across the country. Very exciting, and we've got some really smart people working on it internally and some external consultants who are, helping us understand how to move forward, having done it a lot themselves. So this will be really exciting. Any other questions? Kelly, do you have any comment? Steve?
Well, I guess a question about DOLA funding, is there a possibility that they would fund our overage, like our changes that we're anticipating will need to be done to make the project better?
Yeah,
Or is that just gonna be on our ticket?
Well, I can't guarantee you that we'll get it, but I can guarantee you we're going to ask. Because I think whenever things change, they've been very good about knowing that we've had this before where we have supply chain issues and costs go up and escalate. DOLA has always been very understanding of that. So we will be going back and seeing if there's some opportunities there, but we will certainly ask. Yeah.
I remember a friend of ours who was a plumber in Grand Junction put a new boiler in a Mesa County building in Grand Junction at one time. And he described how much more efficient it was than the one that they had had. It was really a good project.
Yeah.
But it was just replacing the boiler, which now we're wanting to do the heat pumps instead of
Yeah.
just putting in a more efficient boiler.
Yeah.
So I think this is an innovative project. I'm glad we're doing it.
Yeah. And we talked about yesterday, in fact, our consultant told you this is just an evolution of change all the time with the technology and everything that's happening out there. So it's exciting to be on the front end.
And we're looking at replacing, the chiller at the HHS building
Yeah.
is ready to go already. It's at the end of its useful life.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think the ones in the library are getting close, right? So we're
Yeah.
doing this in the nick of time, having used them up.
It is, and that's, I think, based on your direction in prioritizing, this is where we landed, is let's don't go out and replace things that still have some useful life. So both of these buildings, the timing is really set up for this.
Great. We also had a discussion, Kelly, about snow melt and the ubiquity of snow melt and how much do we really need, and could we do without some, because it seems like only the most affluent places in the world melt snow in winter because they have excess money to burn, and I just think it's such a waste. Although we have to balance with safety and liability issues and all that, it does seem that other alternatives to clearing snow are much more efficient than leaving the snow melt on. And so it was a great conversation. If you have a chance to watch it with Peter,
I will. I'll go back.
Rumsey.
yeah, when you have a chance, when you
feeling
feel
better,
better,
yeah.
it's full of really cool information. Peter Lindsay, yeah, thank you. Well, that said, I would entertain a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving and authorizing the chair to sign a grant agreement with the State of Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the Pitkin County Public Building Electrification Project, Phase 1. And this is
Before I second, I will remind this is a public
Public
hearing, I
hearing.
believe.
Thank you,
Yep.
Kelly.
I was
Glad
just
she's on top of
noticing
it.
that. Thanks, Kelly.
It does say that. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody online, I see none. Anybody in the room who wants to comment on this, you'd be welcome to. I don't see that. I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board and call the question.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Kelly. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, passes 3 to 0, 3 to 2 absent. Okay, thank you for that. Now we're moving into open discussion. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about? Art shows to promote, court choir concerts, exhortations to join the choir.
I have something I'd like to just bring to our attention and maybe flag for future open discussion when we have a full board. And this is related to House Bill 1177. And Ryan and I have had some interactions about this bill. And Ryan, you can help me out here, but I think we need to come to a position as a board because Francie and I disagreed and it was her committee to vote at CCI. I would have opposed the bill had it been my vote. She didn't see the same concerns and chose to abstain from it. And it's related to how lawsuits against county actions are treated and how fees are assessed to the winners of that, or fees run to the winners of that. So I, yeah, I just think it's one of those that I don't think our board has a clear position on, and we will be asked at CCAT to take a position in the next month. So that it would be helpful to discuss it. And I don't, Ryan, if you want to summarize your concerns or anything, that's fine too.
Well, I would add one thing. I believe, and maybe I just misheard you, Kelly. It's House Bill 1107. I'm not sure. I thought I heard 1177. But in any event, Kelly has a good summary. There's proposed legislation that would award attorney's fees to a defendant in connection with defending a land use decision from a local government entity, whether that be a county or a city or a municipality. And that award of fees would be almost exclusively applied to and against a citizen or a group of citizens that's challenging the land use determination. So usually the context of that is referred to as a Rule 106 action. So this board makes a decision, for example, on a land use application, and the remedy for either the applicant or a concerned citizen with standing would be to file a Rule 106 action with the district court. And the district court would then essentially serve in an appeal function from the quasi-judicial determination of this board. And what the proposed legislation does is award attorney's fees to both I'll stick with our example here, should the board prevail on a Rule 106 action, the board could collect attorney's fees from the individual challenging the land use decision. Similarly, the applicant or the developer, who often is joined as a defendant in a Rule 106 action, could recover attorney's fees against a citizen or citizen group challenging the land use determination. And there's various policy implications associated with that, which we can get into more once you have the bill text in front of you and things like that. But my understanding of the intent of the legislation is to make it easier for local governments to develop things like affordable housing projects and things like that, or at least that's the stated intent of why the bill was introduced. But it's not so simple in that regard, and it's not limited to an award of attorney's fees just for local government entities, and it is not limited solely to the development of affordable housing or anything like that. There's broad-reaching consequences that will really have a large impact on our current system of reviewing land use determinations from local governmental jurisdictions. I think that this board does a very good job of reviewing land use applications and things like that. But there's always the opportunity for a bad application to receive a decision from a local government that would not be in accord with probably the values of this board or various citizen groups around the state, whether that's approving an oil and gas project or a large subdivision somewhere, you name it. This bill is not so limited that it would only aid a local government trying to build affordable housing. In fact, it's much broader than that, in that it would serve to the benefit of a developer or an applicant more than any other interest, really, and have a very chilling effect on a interested citizen's ability to challenge a local government decision, which in my opinion is fundamental to how both our court system and our democratic system in Colorado functions. So there's reasonable people that can certainly disagree on the best path forward for this legislation. If the sole intent is to help local governments build affordable housing projects, then an amendment to the proposed legislation could clarify that in a way that serves that purpose without fulfilling or enabling much larger and unintended consequences.
Right.
It's also important to keep in mind in the context of a government-sponsored project, like affordable housing or things like that. We generally utilize something like location and extent review to build a road or an affordable housing project or things like that. So the bar is much lower for a local government to develop something like Basalt Vista or any other number of affordable housing projects that we may be the proponent or involved in. So the idea that we need additional protection from the legislature is somewhat of a farce in my mind. But you can tell I probably don't like the proposed legislation very much, and there's an opportunity to discuss it in more detail when the legislation's in front of you, as well as your other board members as well.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah, I'd love to see.
I could talk about it for a while.
I'd like to see it. There isn't any compensation or reimbursement for the plaintiffs' legal fees.
Correct. So it's not a two-way street. So if you are a plaintiff challenging a local governmental determination and you prevail, there is no award of an attorney's fees. The idea that frivolous litigation is stalling good projects is a legitimate concern. But there are already existing statutory and procedural mechanisms in state law that allow a judge to make a discretionary award of attorney's fees. This proposed legislation makes it mandatory and does not give a judge the ability to look at it and say, well, you know what, this was a close call. We don't really think that, or I don't really think, he or she may say it probably was not a frivolous type of case. This person had legitimate concerns about the type of project that was being proposed, and they have a right to challenge it. Those plaintiffs are already charged with paying for their own attorneys, hiring an attorney,
Right.
pursuing all the costs associated with that. To lump the fees for either a governmental entity or a developer on top of that has a real effect on what
Sure.
somebody may do. Particularly, and I know not all counties are in as fortunate of a position to have most of their litigation handled in-house, but the idea that governmental entities need a boost in that realm is somewhat of a fallacy in my mind. But anyway, we should talk about it more.
Yeah, let's get the rest of the board here for that, but that's
Yeah.
fascinating, and thank you for your background. Thanks for bringing it up, Kelly. Is there anything you want to add? Sounds like Rye agrees with you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know what
I
Kelly's
agree with
position
Ryan. I
is.
had asked Ryan for his input because I was like, don't we already do this? I was a little confused about it at the start. And so he helped me think through it. And, I just think it doesn't also it doesn't take into account like decisions from a very closely split board. Like if we have a 2-3 vote or, whatever, and we want to, I don't know, put these additional burdens on our citizens who may, again, be frivolously raising valid claims. It just doesn't seem right. If you only wanted to protect the county and didn't want to think about your citizenry, then, fine. And that, of course, is the way CCI went. But, we have other options to, to work on this bill.
So it already passed for CCI supporting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just am looking
But
it up.
CCAT has not taken a position yet.
Yeah, and that was the discussion. Well, you could tell that CCI, the sentiment was to support it. Kelly wanted to oppose it, and Francie decided to abstain. She could have voted against it, and it wouldn't have swayed the vote at CCI. It was pretty strong majority voted in favor of it, but, and it has been referred to the full House, past the committee it was in.
Good to know.
Great. Well, thank you. Where are we now? Are we done? That's open discussion. That's an open discussion topic. So anybody else have an open discussion topic? I just have one just noted for March 13th. I was contacted by a school teacher in a school class, a third grade class, who wants to come and visit us and give public comment on March 13th. So we're going to have, so y'all have to be in your best behavior, clean up the language, you know, you've got the kids coming in. So we'll be visited by, I don't know if there'll be 3 or 15, I have no idea, but we're going to see them on the 13th.
All right.
Just wanted to warn you. And there'll be
Let's
just
see.
a public comment.
I wanted to find out from Rich, is there any report about the snowplow truck that got stuck up on Castle Creek? They said that the driver was okay, but that's all. I didn't really hear much about it.
Yeah, no, I don't, but I can certainly do some checking and get back to you.
Yeah, I just got, the Pitkin Alert said the Castle Creek Road was closed
Yeah.
for most of the day, and I thought there must have been an avalanche up there, but it was one of our plow trucks got, they said overturned, or, who knows, it went in the ditch, I think, pretty severely anyhow.
Yeah, let me do some checking.
So I hope everything's all right, and the
Sure.
truck, the equipment wasn't damaged too much, it'd be good to get a report on
Yeah,
that.
you bet. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, and they said the driver was okay, but I just wanted to check on that too, to make
Sure.
sure.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I will do that.
I have one more thing. I've been invited to get on a call tomorrow with John Ely and the governor's office regarding Senate Bill 24002 regarding tobacco regulation. And I explained that I am not an expert on this topic, but they asked me to participate since I've written op-eds on tobacco, and because with the Board of Health, we're trying to inhibit tobacco use and flavored tobacco in particular. And we have an op-ed in the local paper coming up one of these days, fairly soon, on that topic from Board of Health. But I'm going to be on a call, and there's some legal. It's really a legal argument. So John Ely is taking the lead on that, and I thought I would let you all know. And I won't have anything more to tell you about it until after tomorrow. But really, it's whether or not we have the ability to regulate flavored tobacco through our controls, tobacco controls we have in place now. And just thought I would give you a heads up if you're interested. I'm assuming you could monitor it, but I'm not certain of that. Get a hold of me and we'll go from there. That's all I've got for today. I'd call for a motion to adjourn if anybody is ready for that.
Yeah, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for hanging in there, Kelly. Feel better. Get better soon.
you.
There's great skiing to
I'm
be had.
sorry.
Kelly, I have a